Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Middays with Trey, your weekly afternoon break. I'm your host, Trey. Let's get right into the show. We have a very special guest. He is an international award-winning clarinetist who has performed all over the world and has now brought his talents right here to CCU to work with students in music and diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's Eric Schultz.
Hi Trey, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show. We wanted to get you out here to talk about music, your time abroad, just everything like that. So let's start from the beginning. How, why, and when did you start playing clarinet?
That's an interesting question because initially I wanted to play the saxophone because my uncle played the saxophone in like a jazz kind of dance band. So I grew up, surrounded by jazz music and Benny Goodman, Artie Shaw, and also funk music and all this great music. So I want to play the saxophone. And my band teacher made me start on the clarinet because too many kids wanted to play the saxophone, which ended up being great for my career because, I learned all the woodwinds and definitely benefited from that going forward.
Where's been your favorite place that you performed? Like I reading your biography, it's a long list of places that you performed. So like where, if you could pick a couple like places that you performed, like where would you say your favorites have been?
Well, I've been really fortunate for sure. I lived in New York for the better part of a decade, and I'm a little jaded. But sometimes I just look at all the opportunities I've had, and I'm the luckiest person alive. I say it all the time. This last season has been particularly amazing. I performed in Carnegie Hall 3 times. One performance was premiering the music of a Holocaust survivor. Who survived Auschwitz, and his piece had never been played. We played it at Carnegie Hall. It was very emotional. This season, a lot of great stuff's happening. My chamber orchestra, the Victory Players, will be playing in Puerto Rico, so we'll be back on the island that inspired all of this amazing new music that we've commissioned over the last 5 years. So lots of amazing things happening. Yeah.
That's great. And I heard you're making an album, in the process of making an album.
Yeah, we recorded it here in March, right here in the Edwards Recital Hall. McKinley Devilbiss recorded it, and now it's been passed on to Grammy award-winning audio engineer Antonio Oliart, and so he's working on the album. I have no idea how long that's going to take, but hopefully I can get that out this year. So this is all new to me. It's my first album, so I'm very grateful for that as well.
That's such a cool thing, especially that you recorded right here at CCU, and especially in the Edwards College. That's very cool. So speaking of CCU, how did you get involved with DEI and everything that goes into that at CCU?
Sure. Well, it was kind of a natural progression because my whole career has centered around, commissioning new music and especially diverse new music. Like I talked about my chamber orchestra, and our first project was El Puerto Rico. So we commissioned, 10 Puerto Rican composers. We've moved on to now Mexican composers, and I talked about, the Carnegie Hall debut of the Auschwitz symphonic poem. So when I got to Coastal, I was having conversations with students that had not had the experience of playing music by people that, look like them, whether that means female composers, Asian composers, composers of color, Hispanic composers, anything. And that was really hard to hear at the time. Or, remember, I started here in August 2020, and we were having, all kinds of conversations coming out of the pandemic, and, what happened with George Floyd and all these, kind of societal, socio-political movements happening. And so it just kind of happened naturally, and we just started, with Diamond Gaston and my student Haley Cornell, looking at, who are the great women composers, who are the great composers of color that we'll talk about out there, and what amazing music is out there. And my gosh, did we find a gold mine of amazing music.
So speaking about your work with students here at Coastal, what are some upcoming events that you guys have coming up, for the semester or the rest of the year?
Amazing events happening this semester. We have September 16th, the Edwards Center for Inclusive Excellence with the IS office in Myrtle Beach Pride. We're going to be showing the movie Moonlight and have a talk back session as a kind of kickoff to Myrtle Beach Pride Week. October 14th is Edwards Open House, so you'll get to hear from the new faculty fellows in the Edwards Center for Inclusive Excellence about those new projects and new students and faculty starting in the center with their amazing ideas. And then November 11th, Friday, this is one to mark in your calendar. I keep calling it the concert of the century here because Valerie Coleman, cultural icon, composer, flutist, is going to be here on our campus for her artist residency here, working with our students, talking in the center, and then finally giving a performance of her music. We're going to play, I'm so excited to perform with her, this amazing piece, Portraits of Langston. And so very much looking forward to that. The Valerie Coleman project has been just one of the kind of spin-off projects from what we were talking about with these conversations with students. Diamond and Haley and all of the students in the Edwards Center for Inclusive Excellence. One issue we did run into was, when you play the music of Mozart, Tchaikovsky, Brahms, the standard classical titans, that music you can go on to an online music library and it's free. You can just print it because it's in the public domain now.
Right.
You can't do that with a living composer. They depend on this music for their livelihood and it's copyrighted. And so, even when a piece like Portraits of Langston or something might cost $30, $40, for a student, that's a significant investment. So I'm so grateful we have the AIDC here and the Edwards College and the music department that support all of this. And they just bought the entire, Valerie Coleman Music Library. So I brought that here today to show it off a little bit. And we have, the entire collection. She even sent some of her orchestral music, which I'm so grateful for, her orchestral score. A little note about this work, Umoja. If you've walked through the Edwards Courtyard this past year, you've heard this work because the Woodwind Ensemble has been playing it, nonstop. Too much probably, right? But this work, Valerie made history in 2019 when she was commissioned by the Philadelphia Orchestra. She was the first woman of color ever commissioned by a major American orchestra, a Big Five American orchestra, as we call it. So she's secured her page in the history books, and it's our honor to have her here, and I just can't wait. So please mark that in your calendar, November 11th, 6 p.m. right here in Edwards Recital Hall.
That's great. And how can students or even faculty and staff get involved in the DIE services at Coastal, especially within the Edwards College?
Sure. We have an amazing, supportive college and university community more broadly, and there are amazing organizations. If you're interested in doing DEI work, reach out to me. Come talk to our students in the center, or just come sit in on one of our meetings and see, the ideas, these amazing ideas these students have. We often too, for example, with Valerie Coleman being here, when the IS office, Marquita and Josh heard about that, they're like, can we do something for her? This is a good idea. Can we get in on this? And Women and Gender Studies as well wants to, come in and work and listen to her. What does she have to say? We're not just going to be playing her music, but also like hearing her stories and where she comes from. Just reach out, come meet with us and network. It's an amazing community. And I always say, to my students, if you have a good idea, that idea will spread. We've seen that. This all just started with conversations, a year ago, and look at all the amazing things that have come out of it. So as I tell my students, go sing from the mountaintops. Once you have a great idea, let people know, and that idea can really take over.
Wow, that's all great stuff, Eric. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
For this week's Hat of the Week, we're rocking the Takis hat. And this hat actually has a pretty funny story. So a couple Fridays ago, before classes started, we had a band event, at Walmart on 501. If you're not familiar with 501, if you're not from Conway or Myrtle Beach, that's the main highway that goes through pretty much everything in this city/town. And in the Walmart, we had the band playing as people were getting their groceries, as students were getting their moving stuff, their pillows, their bed sheets, everything that they needed to move in. The band was playing for them, and so they also had a table set out with different vendors. So they had Sara Lee, they had like ice, the sparkling drinks, and they also had Takis. And Takis was giving out these awesome purple hats. You don't really see purple hats like that, As the Chanticleers, we rep teal, of course. So we see a lot of teal, but so the purple kind of stood out in a little bit. So all the percussion in the marching band got these hats, and I was like, this is a perfect photo opportunity. So I got Chauncey, our mascot. I got him in the percussions, and I took a picture. We'll put that. Can we put that up there? We can. Okay, cool. Now you're seeing the picture. So this is a very random picture, but I tagged Takis on social media when I posted it, and they actually responded. Now they only responded with "We love purple," but a response is a response, and they're verified. So now we're basically verified. So that's the hat of the week. As you can see, it is this nice purple Takis hat, and no, we are not sponsored. congratulations, students and faculty and staff, on completing your first week here at Coastal Carolina University. Whether it's your first year, second year, third year, fourth year, 16th year, maybe of teaching, that's okay. But congratulations on completing the first year of the 2022 semester. We had a lot of things going on last week. Let's check that out. So as you can see, we had a lot of stuff going on last week, and it's just going to keep rolling with the events, the speakers, the educational sessions. So just stay tuned with the Edwards College and, just Coastal in general, and enjoy the Coastal experience. So now it's time for your weekly update. So starting September 5th and running through October 7th, we're going to have world-renowned artist and actually the HTC Distinguished Teacher Scholar of the Year, Charles Clary, and he is a professor here at Edwards, and he is, like I said, a world-renowned artist, and he actually will have his artwork for display in the Rebecca Randall Bryan Art Gallery downstairs in the Edwards building. If you don't know about that, please come check it out. His artwork is amazing. He does like paper cutout artwork, so if you haven't seen it, it's amazing. I would definitely recommend checking it out. All right, that wraps up this week's episode of Midday with Trace. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you tune in next week, same time, same place. Bye.